Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, and I want to show off a little build that I've been playing in Torchlight here that is a little bit different than what I was playing before, and it goes back to using one of my favorite heroes, which is Carino 3. And this is going to be a dex stacking split shot character. Just show you a little bit of gameplay first right off the bat. Uh, And basically the way that this works is we are going to be just spinning and winning and just generally murderizing everything. And the character is still a little bit squishy and it has some kind of strange things going on with it. But for the most part, it's just been quite a bit of fun, just kind of running through maps and blasting everything. And you do end up getting quite a lot of movement speed, which is really, really nice. Because it can just be like a very solid, just like, quick farmer. And I've seen people doing a strength stacking version of this as well, which does work. I think both dexterity and strength stacking are pretty neat. However, the reason I went with dex stacking is because of the hat combo that I want to show you here shortly. Just murder this boss real quick, and that's just like profound 8 real fast. So basically what we're doing is we are using split shot. So split shot normally just fires out multiple projectiles. However, with rapid advancement, this turns into a channeled skill and you get additional damage for each max channel stack, additional up to 5. So we want to find 5 max channel stacks somewhere. Right now I have each on candles here. And then we're doing split shot diversion, which just shoots stuff all over the place. We're doing electric punishment, because we're doing more damage to numbed enemies. Electric fusion, though, prevents us from applying numbed with this skill, which is totally fine. I'll show you why in a second. We're using centralized loading for movement, life source for getting more life, and then we're using thunder spike here to apply a huge shock. In fact, we stack up to 10 shocks, or numbed, I guess is what it's called now, numbed. And these apply a ton of numb effect. And normally what numb does is it makes it so that each stack of numb, we get 10 of them on an enemy, take 4% additional damage. But because of this, I believe, conductive now does 8% additional. So we get 10 of these, that's 80% multiplicative. Then we get quite a bit of numbed effect all over the place. So that 80% comes a very big number. I'm just going to show you kind of what we're working with. So we have electrocute here. So do more lightning damage if we've done more lightning damage recently. That's pretty good. Rushed, we can, we're just moving around all the time. You can also take impermanence here. I have impermanence on a slate. The reason why impermanence is really nice is because it lowers down the very small bottom end damage, because lightning damage is like very variable, like 1 to 12 type of thing. So you reduce that 1 by 40%, but increase the 12 by 40%. So it's a much bigger plus than a minus than what you're getting. Blade Dancer down here, we're doing conductive to get the numbed effect. And then I was using queer angle before to make it lucky. However, it seems like waiting attack is just kind of generally better. It gives us basically free agility blessing because we just get these all of the time. And also makes it so that our agility blessing now gives us 4% additional damage per agility blessing. So it takes from being a 2% multiplier to being an additional 4% as well from waiting attack. And so this allows us to go and get agility blessing on stuff. And then elementalist here, we're getting focus, which gives us max channel stacks, additional damage for each max channel stack. And then I'm doing peculiar vibe here. Now, if I wanted to do focus blessing stacking, I considered doing that as well. We probably go penetrating, but we're definitely really focused on doing lightning. Now, the main reason why we're doing lightning is for a couple of things. So one, we're getting a ton of dexterity stacking. This is not a really great example of this chest armor. I would want this one to be tier 0 here. It's just that is quite expensive compared to, let me see this, price check. I probably have to pull this up manually. Getting a tier 01 is very expensive compared to what I had before, except for this one here, I guess, apparently. Maybe this guy's just mispriced his gear. But yeah, I'm gonna just buy that. So anyways, like I was saying, We pretty much want to get the flat dexterity upgrade here, and then percentage dexterity with the other good option there. We're doing Thunder Manipulator. This is pretty nice because it gives us numbed effect. However, we're probably going to switch over to Ralph's Burial as we get more agility blessings, just because it just gives us a lot more damage. Thunder Manipulator is really nice though because it marks enemies for us, which makes them take more damage. However, we'll probably ideally get a curse on our ring eventually, which allows us to drop our curse, and then we get Fixate in its place instead. This build is still not very juiced yet. As you can see here, our weapon's not even all tier 1. Most of our gear is not even priceless, or it's legendary and stuff. But it all kind of comes down to, I really wanted to use this tech that I saw this one guy in my chat using, and that is Legless Bird's Lament. So I first saw this, my first instinct was, holy crap, this is bad. Because it gives you 3% lightning pen for every 2 lightning resistance. However, you get -1 erosion resistance for every +1 lightning resist. So that would mean that you would basically need to have like a lot more erosion res for every lightning res you have, which kind of makes it be a huge problem. However, we turn this negative into a positive, which is a very, very fun thing about ARPGs. And so we have -160 erosion resistance, and this is not a bad thing. And you might notice that our max resistance over here is 68. And so the reason for that is because if we look at our one candle here, you will see here that we have aura effect, and then for every 21% erosion resistance, -1 elemental max resistance. Well, guess what happens when you have negative erosion resistance? That's right, you get positive max resistance. So this candle is effectively a 4 mod candle. And yes, I made this myself. It was kind of hard to find candles like this, and ideally I'd have a second one pretty much just like this, or like having resistance or something on there as well would be really, really nice. But let's say if I had 2 of these, and ideally it'd be at 20%. So for every -20% erosion res, get +1 max resistance. So putting this candle on here takes my max res from 60 to 68. And then ideally we would go and get even more lightning res. So the more lightning res we get, the more negative erosion res we get. And so for every basically 21 lightning res we get right now, we get +1 to our maximum res, which is pretty freaking wild. And your lightning res will pretty much always be capped. And the main problem becomes keeping your cold and fire resistance capped as well, which we'll get into. Now you might be wondering, okay, so you just explode and die when erosion damage touches you? No, and this is where some of the tech comes in here. So we are using slates here that convert 6% of erosion damage taken to fire damage, cold damage, and lightning damage. And so you'll notice that that is 18%. So 100% damage divided by 18 is 5.5 repeating, which means if we have 6 of this modifier on our slates, we become immune to erosion damage because it is now pure elemental. And so I have not yet finished this because the slates are pretty expensive, but ideal perfect universe, we would have a Sparks of Mothfire touching this, and then this also touches Sparks that set the prairie ablaze, and then I would have a second Mothfire here touching another one of these. Now I don't only have one Mothfire right now, so instead I have 3 slates that are all doing this, which means that yes, we have 6, 7 of this, so I don't even really need this in this spot right now. I could put this somewhere else, like so, and it would be totally fine. And then the other things we're going to be looking for is like negative elemental damage taken for each elemental damage taken recently. I don't think this one is as good as I think it is. We're getting 1 max focus blessing here just to get a little bit more damage whenever we hit a frostbitten enemy, which is pretty much like all of the time, I believe. And then because we apply frostbite with other stuff, not our main skill, obviously. We get additional elemental damage taken. Ideally, we would also have physical turned to element as well. And we would stack up our lightning res so freaking high that we would have like the cap 90% res on all 3 reses. We turn a lot of that physical into elemental, and then we would just like basically take almost no damage from erosion because it's all elemental. We take no damage from elemental, really, it's very, very reduced damage. And then we take very little damage from physical. So it makes us very, very tanky, which is very nice. And then on our big slate here, the pedigree, I think that this is probably a really good option here. I think that if you're looking for a slate, you're definitely going to want something that has shooting arrows as the secondary. And then you're going to pick impermanence or really any of the like things here that you could potentially pick, like perception, electrocute, impermanence, rush. Actually, you can't get those. You can get rushed, you can get impermanence. You could potentially take queer angle or waiting attack. You could also take peculiar vibe. I wouldn't really take quick ritual. I don't think that that's all that great. This is 20% more damage, which really isn't all that bad. But the reason we want to use this kind of strange shooting arrows is because this is actually a lot of damage for us. So we get 20% additional projectile damage, but this also gives us 50% knockback distance. And we want quite a bit of knockback distance because of our hero. And so in the Endless Frenzy here, for every 2% knockback distance, we get 1.2% additional damage. So that gives us basically 25 stacks of this. So it's like 25% multiplier, which means shooting arrows is one of the biggest multipliers that we can find on a pedigree, and it's a secondary, which is pretty nice. Now, do note that this only goes up to 40 stacks, so we basically just want to find knockback stuff like either on another slate. I think you can get like 15%, or I believe that this is potentially working hunting tempo, which gives us an additional 15% knockback chance. Although I'm not 100% sure if this is up all of the time. It's a little bit sus there. Now, for the rest of the stuff here, the thing to note with this particular hero trait is that you can pretty much shoot forever, which as long as you stay moving. So we see we get these overheated stacks here. And as I'm moving, the overheated stacks that are higher than my heat up stacks, which is my ammo, will be removed as I move. However, when I stop moving, the overheat will build up, and this little red meter over here will build up. And if it builds up all of the way over 10 seconds, I will go into what's called burning red mode, then be forced to reload. And so if you're finding yourself not able to attack, or you see yourself having to reload, or your ammo being gone, that means you're probably not moving fast enough, or you're standing still, which just makes some bossing kind of difficult. However, you can just do that. Now, you also have 2 different modes with this particular Carino. You can tell which one you're in based up here. Annihilator mode is the slow, do more damage mode, whereas mobile mode is the move faster one. It's a little bit hard to figure out exactly what's going on here, but if we look at this, basically, mobile mode gives us 20% more movement speed, whereas Annihilator gives us additional attack and cast speed. Now, previously, this character was really good at stacking up additional ammo from projectile quantity and splits and jumps and all this sort of stuff. And I kind of just nerfed the ever-loving crap out of that this season. And I really don't recommend personally going after projectile quantity or splits in order to increase your magazine capacity. It's just not really a great multiplier anymore. And I think that this is just the best. Now, for all the stuff here, we went a ton of crit, maybe too much crit. We picked up a little bit of spell block as well. I think that all of this is pretty darn decent. Having a little bit of block is pretty nice right now. If I was going to finish up this gear today, I'd be looking for pretty much any ranged weapon that has +2 agility blessing on it, and also dream +2 agility blessing on this as well. And we kind of show you like one of the guys that I've been kind of looking at in terms of the gear. I think that I have to, there is hero ranking. This guy here, Mr. Retained. So this weapon is pretty close to what we would want. We want agility blessing instead of projectile quantity because this doesn't really do much for us. Then dexterity, attack skill level, armor penetration, armor damage mitigation, projectile damage, gear attack speed, and gear critical strike rating. I think that this is pretty darn close to perfect for us, except like I said, the projectile quantity doesn't really do much for us compared to him. Likewise, he was doing focus blessing stacking. I'm probably going to do agility blessing stacking instead, but all of this stuff does look basically what I would look like on perfect gear as well. And then getting both curses on amulet and on ring. And then we want a candle that has like +1 curse. Probably has one here, +1 curse, max channel stacks. And if it can also be one of these negative erosion candles, that would be really legit. And we wouldn't use Thunder Manipulator because we're agility blessing stacking, making the Ralph's gloves a little bit better. Now he did a little bit of a different setup here with the slates. I didn't really like going and using Space Rift because I feel like you're really going to need as Carino to get yourself that knockback distance, and just some other stuff is a little bit better on Carino, but you could definitely do that setup as well. What else to say? Let me just show off the DPS against the dummy real quick. Oh yeah, so one thing I thought was kind of weird is centralized loading gives you a buff on the bar that increases your projectile damage and the projectile quantity of the next skill. However, it's a little bit weird because when you start spinning, it only consumes one of the buffs, which is because as long as the buff is up, you will continue to get the buff, which is pretty nice. So this is me just like in, quantity pets right now. If I switch over to DPS pets, the damage goes up to, I think, like 100 billion, 140 billion. I don't even know where we're at right now. I did just buy that new chest armor and go put that on as well, I guess. You can kind of see the damage is starting to get there. Now, the one thing to note is this like little lightning stab you're seeing here. That's the thing that's applying our shock stacks and is applying things like frostbitten and stuff for us. So it is pretty important if you are trying to kill a boss to at least like zip a little bit close to them occasionally. I'm kind of looking in to see if there's a way for Thunder Spike to hit a little bit farther away that wouldn't be too much of a pain in the butt to get. However, even though we aren't using a weapon that uses Thunder Spike, we can use it since we have Activation Medium proccing it for us. Now, I kind of feel like they should maybe make it so that this is impossible, but it does cause some very funny builds. And I kind of feel like Thunder Spike might be something that like kind of should be squeezed into every build realistically. But as you can see here, basically it triggers the supported skill once on up to 3 locked on enemies within 20 meters, and then always locks on enemies within 25 meters. You want to have this mod here. Now, one thing to note is that the range doesn't really matter as much because I can definitely trigger it at a range, as you can see here, like we're within 20 meters, but it's not hitting. So it's kind of dumb. You have to kind of be close to it in order for it to trigger off, which is pretty important. Now for auras real quick, I know some of you guys are going to struggle with this. I don't actually have the Thunder Spirit active right now. The main reason I have something in here is because if you don't, the game continuously tells you that you have an open slot, which is just really, really annoying. Summon Flame Spirit gives us more crit, which is really nice. And then we're doing electric conversion and precise projectiles with precise restrain on both of them. If you don't have precise restrain, then you can just like use a swiftness or something else. Now you might be wondering, why aren't you using elemental amplification? Well, this only works on spell skills. So spell skills, we're not doing a spell, so don't do that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. For candles, you definitely, when you're starting off, just get max channel stacks. That's really all you want. Stuff that's really good here on the candles. I'm going to show you what my search looks like real quick. No search history. Okay. Basically looking for things like more lightning damage, aura effect, additional curse, all of that kind of stuff. All of that very, very good. And I highly would recommend that type of stuff. And for amulet, obviously we're probably going to replace this with a rare one eventually. And then switching over to Ralph's gloves. Let me just show, I've talked about the Ralph's gloves a couple of times in this video. Let's talk about Ralph's laws. The reason why we just switch over to Ralph's laws eventually is because if you get this modifier here, the additional lightning damage for every stack of agility blessing, if you get this kind of leveled up here to tier 0, we can see here this goes up to 12% per agility blessing. And apparently these are, my gear is just free today. So, yeah, let's just pick this up, I guess. So, yeah, so let's just see what happens here. I think I have to energy this real quick. Uh, okay, I guess people are like quitting the season and just putting stuff up really, really cheap. This is like my only guess. Like these were a lot more expensive before. Maybe we'll get lucky here for the video, please. There we go. Okay, so the big difference here in the gloves is that I believe that this goes up to about 80%. And this does give us a lot of lightning res, which is really, really nice. So we're probably going to be missing out on that lightning res. However, it'll be fine because we get 6 agility blessings. And so 6 times 12, that's 72% multiplier. I think that that's probably going to be bigger than what we have right now, but let's do a little test run here. So we're just hitting, we have about 140, 143 is our cap. We're hitting about like 130-ish. Ooh, okay. 167 is our cap. We're hitting about 130-ish without, I don't know what that is. Just giga luck, I guess, on our rolls because we have like max crit. I'll put on the other ring, our other weapon here. We're waiting for the mark to fall off. Okay, well, looks like Ralph's is maybe a little bit worse right now until we have a lot more agility blessings. It's like pretty darn close, but I think that probably losing all of that erosion res, we lose about 3% max res. We're losing a lot of lightning res there. So maybe having on the thunder manipulators for now is just really the call. However, once we get 4 more agility blessings here, and then an agility blessing on my other ring over here, I think that that is really going to be the break point there. So you can probably just buy yourself a pretty cheap thunder manipulator. Like I think just baseline, these are not really all that expensive. We do non-corroded. So you get some of these, like even this marked one, the mark effect is pretty good. It's probably a little bit more expensive. Oh, there we go, 160. Oh, we don't want max lightning res. This is one thing you want to keep an eye out for. So the max lightning res ones are going to be more expensive. So what you just want to do is go here and type in lightning res, and you put that in the search. And this will prevent you from seeing max lightning res, because when this lightning res goes up to tier 0, it turns into max lightning res, which is just bad for us. But yeah, that's pretty much the build. Wanted to do kind of a quickish video for this, because I'm probably not really going to be playing this all that much. We have like the PTR right now for Diablo 4, which I've been playing a whole bunch. And then also we have PoE 2 coming out, which I'm definitely playing. So we'll be checking all that stuff out. So I'm really sure how much time I'm going to have in order to kind of like finish out the build here. But I did want to show it off here because it definitely works. And like I said, there's other people that are doing, I believe, builds that are like strength stacking as well. So this guy is strength stacking, basically doing a very similar build here, but with like way different slates set up. And so there's definitely, ways to go about doing this. This guy is really, really strong. So yeah, I haven't really seen a lot for Carino 3, so I want to put out a video there. I do want to give a big shout out though to Void241. He kind of gave me a little bit of an inspiration to play this. He was playing something very similar with the strength stacking, and then he like switched over to 100 different other builds. And definitely I like wanted to check it out because I wanted to play Carino 3 again. I had a lot of fun with it last season. I was kind of bummed to see that it wasn't doing all that great this season. Hope this video helps you out. We'll see you again soon. Later.